Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Startup Europe Regions Network, I welcome you to today's webinar organized by the French region Île-de-France and SERN, How to Become a Global Innovation Hub, Paris Region Support to Startups and the Innovation Ecosystem. My name is Andrea Mendes, and I'm working at CERN Secretariat as long as my colleague Eva Bourdon. We are now going to ensure the technical coordination of this webinar. So please, let me first comment on some technical and organizational issues. If you have technical problems, please try to close and restart your browser. Sometimes it helps to switch to another browser, for instance, to switch from Mozilla Firefox to Google Chrome. If you cannot hear us, please check the sound settings of your computer. We have done everything to ensure that everything works from our end of the webinar. We ask for your understanding that as the webinar is a live event, we cannot provide individual technical assistance during the session. Please note that we are recording this webinar, and the link of the recording will be shared on our website. So, if you are having technical issues right now, to attend the webinar or just want to hear it again later, you can always watch the recording when it suits you. The presentations will also be shared on our webpage. If you have questions during the webinar, you can use the chat box at the right side of your screen to submit your questions at any time. You can also raise a hand on the right side of your screen. We will have a Q&A session after each presentation with enough time to answer all questions. At the Q&A, we will unmute you and you can ask your question directly to the speaker. Then you will be muted again. The webinar should finish by 4:30 p.m. When we end the webinar on our side, you should be redirected to a new window asking you to provide online feedback on today's webinar. We hope you all take the time, just about 2 minutes, to complete a short form and to help us improve future webinars. Please wait until the end of the webinar, as the feedback form opens automatically. We will now give the floor to Mr. Romain Del Grosso, Head of Mission and Economic Strategy at Île-de-France region. Mr. Romain, the floor is now yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes? Hello?
Yes, it works. We can hear you.
Okay, it's working. So I think now you can all see my screen. Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Romain Del Grosso, and I'm working for Paris Regional Council at the Department for Economic Development as the head of the economic strategy. So the objective today is to give you a quick overview of Paris region innovation ecosystem, and more precisely of the actions that were taken by the Regional Council in order to help startups over the last few years. So as you were told in the presentation, you can ask any question during my presentation, and I'll try to answer after my presentation that will last around 20 minutes. If it's fine for you, I will, okay, if I can go through my presentation. Not sure it's working. Okay. So I'll start by giving you some key figures on Paris Region Innovation Hub, so you can be more familiar with the regional context before talking about the role of the Regional Council in this global environment, because I'm aware that for people from foreign countries, that's not very obvious what's the role of the region relatively to the state or other administrative layers. So I think it's important to be very precise on this point. And then I will go more deeply into the main tools that we are using to help startups that can basically fall into 3 distinct categories. First, financial aids. Second, indirect support to startups through the innovation ecosystem, which means incubators, accelerators. And finally, I'll say a few words on access to public procurement for startups, which is a very important tool for us that we are currently developing. about the regional context. I know it's very ambitious, but we like to present ourselves as Europe's leading economic and innovation region with the highest GDP in the European Union, because as you can see, we have around 30% of French GDP is in Paris region, and we represent 4.5% of EU GDP. EU with 28 members, including Great Britain, so ahead of Greater London and Lombardy. And we have a concentration of corporate headquarters with 27 Fortune 500 companies in Paris region in all, basically all major sectors, as you can see, AI, AR, drones, smart mobility, retail, connecting health, big data, cybersecurity, and etc. And we have a very dynamic startup ecosystem with more than 5,000 startups listed in Paris region, and on the leading edge of key technologies that I mentioned: AI, AR, big data, cybersecurity. And last year, these startups have raised around 1.7 billion euros only in Paris region, which was up by 30% from 2015. And which accounts for nearly 70% of VC investment on the national scale. And we are also the leading region in Europe in terms of research and development, with the highest R&D spending and the largest pool of R&D workers. So yeah, just as I mentioned earlier, so we are the first region in Europe for R&D. And another thing which is very important to mention, and a main asset for a Paris region, is our highly qualified and productive workforce, which represents nearly 20% of France's population. And we have a quarter of students studying in Paris regions, quarter of French students studying in Paris regions, and 35% of French executives are working in Paris region. So that's a very important asset for us. So I told you earlier, we have around 5,000 startups in Paris region with a big focus on deep tech, AI, IoT. Each year we have many startups exhibiting at the Las Vegas CES. 1/3 of the startups that were exhibiting in CES in 2018 were French, and most of them were coming from Paris region. You also have at the bottom of the slide examples of 3 regional champions that with the 3 most important fundraising last year: Sigfox, OVH, and Jumia, that are regional champions, and we expect them to grow even faster and to employ many people in Paris region and attract more investments. And we have, as I told you, a very dynamic startup ecosystem with around 620 innovation centers located in Paris region. And that includes 216 incubators and accelerators, around 170 co-working spaces, but also nearly 100 fab labs and maker spaces and business centers. So all these places are very important for us to help startups, and I'll come back to this point later when I'll talk about the global innovation ecosystem that we are supporting. So now, if I come more deeply into the role of the regional council in this global ecosystem, I think it's very important to mention firstly that the regional council is the leader of the economic development on Paris region's territory, because as you may know, we have many administrative layers in France, and especially in Paris regions. That's something very particular for from a foreign point of view, but we are the leader of the economic development, which means that our strategy, our economic strategy, is prescriptive to all the other layers, administrative layers, including municipalities, intercommunalities, departments, So we adopted in December 2016 the regional global economic strategy that we call leader strategy. So it's very, as you'll see, we are using leader pretty much everywhere for all our policies. So the global strategy is called leader strategy. So it's the strategy for the period 2017 to 2021. And it's based on four main orientations. The first one is investing in the attractiveness of Paris region. So how to make sure that more foreign direct investments are coming to Paris regions and more foreign companies are settling in Paris region and creating jobs and added value in Paris region. The second orientation is related to the competitiveness of our startups, SMEs, and medium industries in Paris region. So I'll tell you more about all the financial aids that we have implemented in order to boost the competitiveness of these companies. Third orientation, which is linked to the EER strategy, because as you know, Paris regions was awarded the EER label for the 2018 year. So in these orientations, we are implementing actions in order to develop an entrepreneurial and innovative spirit throughout the Paris region. And the last orientation is more is regarding governance and the fact that we need to work collectively in order to implement and to make sure that our economic strategy is efficient. Each year we have a budget of roughly 130 million euros. And it's important to note that half of this budget directly goes to businesses. And I think it's something very different from what we used to have before, because before we used to mainly support infrastructures or places linked with businesses, but not directly businesses. And now half of our budget is going to SMEs, startups, and also corporates, even if it's more mainly to SMEs and startups. And each year we support around 3,000 SMEs, including 1,000 startups. So startups are, they have a very important place in all our, all the companies that are benefiting from our heads. And we also supporting 10,000 creators each year. So now I'd like to tell you a bit more about our regional offer for startups and the financial aids that we are offering. So since the year 2016, we have created a new financial offer for startups and SMEs, which is constituted of three major aids and a new equity fund. So the first one is called TP Up. So TP Up is an aid to help small businesses with less than 10 employees to develop and modernize their production tools, particularly in the face of digital and ecological transformations. And TP Up consists in grants of up to 55,000 euros to finance a strategic plan over 12 to 18 months, integrating tangible and intangible investments action, strategic advices, and international development. So TP Up for small businesses with less than 10 employees. Second aid is PM Up. So basically PM Up is a big TP Up. And the aim of PM Up is to help small and medium enterprises in order to modernize their production tools and to develop internationally. So PM Up are grants of up to 250,000 euros for investments, patents, consultancy, international development, and executive recruitment activities. Third head that we are offering is InnovUp, which is basically our head for innovation, to support innovative companies, of course startups, in the transition from the idea to marketing. And InnovUp consists in 4 different heads. The first one is a feasibility head to validate the opportunity of an innovation project. And this is a grant of up to 30,000 euros. So first one, feasibility. The second one is a development head to carry out your innovation project. So this head is much larger because it's up to 100,000 euros, sorry, in grant, and possible repayable advance up to 1 million euro. So feasibility, development head. Third one is prototyping assistance to produce a prototype and exhibit it at the international, in one of our international digital festival. And Innova prototype in 2018 was linked with AI. So we exhibited prototypes of startups with innovative solutions regarding AI. And the last head for InnovUp is experimentation, in order to support and test an innovation and to confront the users before the marketing. And InnovUp experimentation is an head up to 100,000 euros. We also reinforced over the last 2 years our equity fund, which is called Paris Region Venture Fund. So now it's an investment fund with a 50 million euros capital. And the ambition of this equity fund is to invest in early stage deep tech companies with tickets, with a medium ticket of 250,000 euros or 500,000 euros, and to boost regional champions and startups in deep tech sectors. We also regarding, so I'm still in the part regarding financial aids. So another aid is the challenges that we have launched this year, and we are intending to launch new ones in the coming year. I think it's a very interesting idea. So in 2018, we launched the Paris Region AI Challenge, which was the first international challenge for French, but also for international startups on artificial intelligence. And there was a prize of 1 million euros, and it was covering many fields in AI, energy, health, mobility, smart city, industry, or finance. And there were 10 startups that were shortlisted in the first round. This startup benefited from an accompaniment of a few months, and then 4 winners were selected. I mentioned in the slide the 4 winners: Terra Panacea, Lighton, Panda Guide, and Smartify. Smartify is, I think it's a foreign startup from England. And so these 4 winners shared the global prize of 1 million euros. You can find more information. I mentioned the website so below. So if you want more information, you can go on the website. I told you that we are intending to launch new challenges in 2019. The next one will be on cybersecurity, and it's going to be an international challenge for startups to address needs around cybersecurity. And these needs were expressed by major economic actors located in Paris regions, Atos, SNCF, and Stade de France. And so the challenge will cover 3 main topics: major events, transportation, and sport. So basically, the challenges promotes a new way of helping startups, because we are cooperating with private actors, Atos, SNCF, Stade de France, and these actors are expressing a need, and then we are launching the challenge in order to find the solutions proposed by the startups to match these needs. I also wanted to tell you a few words on our entrepreneurship program, which is called Entrepreneur Leader. So we created in 2017 a new entrepreneurship program which reunites all regional stakeholders to form a unique parkour for all business creators in Paris region. So this program is built on 3 distinct phases, and each of these phases is coordinated by a regional partner. I think it's very important to mention that because previously we had many actors helping creators and startups. So we try to rationalize the offer so that it can be more visible and more leasable for startups and creators. So the 3 phases are: the first one, build my project, with the help of business creation consultants to finalize the economic study, formalize the business plan. Second step, finance my project, to inform about all the financing offer that is available in Paris region and the eligibility of the project, and to mobilize this available offer. And third phase, develop my business, and which is a support during the first 3 years after the creation of the startup by a consultant from the network of partners. And this third phase was also very important for us because, as you may know, many startups and many creators are dying 1 or 2 years after the business creation. So it's very important to make sure that it's growing well and that we keep following them. So now in this third part, I'd like to come back on all the support we are giving to the innovation ecosystem. One thing we're doing is we are supporting innovation hubs, which are centers aiming to gather and structure all the main actors of a strategic ecosystem. So we have financed 13 projects in the last 2 years for a total of 10 million euros. And I wanted to focus on 3 main centers that we have supported over the last 2 years. The first one is Additive Factory Hub, which is an open initiative for the development of the industry by additive manufacturing, and it's based in Paris-Saclay, in the south of Paris region. The second one is DigiHall. DigiHall is a digital innovation hub, also based in Paris-Saclay, that will regroup more than 1,500 researchers on various topics regarding AI, cyber physical systems, cybersecurity, and Industry 4.0. And another important placed innovation hub that we have financed over the 2 last years is Liberté Living Lab, which is a collaborative workspace for tech, civil, and social innovation. So these hubs aim at gathering, as I said, all the actors, including startups, corporates, but also universities, incubators. So I think it's very important to structure. They are very important to structure new strategic ecosystem that we are trying to reinforce in Paris region. We are also helping, of course, incubators and what we call tiers-lieux. So as I said earlier, there are many incubators in Paris region, but we are financing some of them. We financed 15 incubators in 2017 and 2018. But the priority is on incubators which are open to international companies and that are willing to develop collaborations with regional, national, and international counterparts. So that's a very important criterion for us. to select the incubators that we are supporting. And we also currently creating a regional network in order to mutualize competencies between all these incubators and to coordinate the offer in order to be more visible in the national and international scale. We're also supporting what I call tiers-lieux. So tiers-lieux corresponds to co-working spaces, fab labs, business centers, and all these hybrid places. We supported 27 of them in 2017 and 2018 with the objective of 1,000 in Paris region in 2021. So today we're at around 700 tiers-lieux in Île-de-France, in Paris region, and I think we can reach the objective of 1,000 in 2021. I have good hope that we can get there. You can also find a map of innovation that summarize that present all these places in Paris region on the websites I put on the slide, so you can check if you want. I also wanted to give you an overview of the acceleration programs that we are supporting. Well, Eric, after my presentation, will tell you about WILCO, but WILCO is a very important program for us. It's a startups accelerator, which is offering a 3-year service package to help startups achieve their 1 million euros in annual turnover within 3 years without taking equity. But well, I'll let Eric tell you more about WILCO just after my presentation. Another acceleration program is Pépite Starter Île-de-France, which is an acceleration program dedicated to startups created by students entrepreneurs, which is based in Station F, you know, the biggest startup campus in the world in Paris. And this program is offering intensive training and support over 5 months for students that are creating their startups. And finally, we created this year l'accelerator ESS, which is an acceleration program for startups in the social economy, consisting in a 24 months individual accompaniment and to make these startups the future national champions of the social economy. So I think in the first promotion, we have 10 startups, but you can find more information on the websites that I put on the slides. And lastly, I wanted to tell you a few words on the access to public procurement for startups, because it's, as I said, it's a very important tool for us. We're obviously acting as a financer, but we're also trying to act to mobilize the regional procurement and to make sure that the startups developing in Paris region can have access to public markets, and they can develop thanks to public markets, and then they can find other markets and grow and grow. So we adopted in March 2017 a small regional small business act with a bunch of measures in order to facilitate SMEs access to public markets. And it's relying on first better information to SMEs on the public markets that are open to SMEs. It's also relying on simplified procedures, the grant of advances of up to 50% of the global contract in order to reduce cash problems, because you know that's a very important problem for startups that are willing to candidate to public markets. It's also relying on the shortening of payment delays, here again to reduce cash problems that startups are facing, a fight against illegal work, and finally, we in this Regional Small Business Act, we committed to reserve 2% of the regional procurement for innovative solutions. And finally, we are also organizing each month what we call les mardis de la Smart Région. Well, in English, that would be Tuesdays of the Smart Region, which are monthly meetings between startups and public actors, local governments, but also universities, hospitals, in order to sensibilize buyers, these public actors, to the new solutions that exist on the market and to encourage innovative procurement. So over the past months, we organized many Mardi de la Smart Région on education in April, tourism in July, civic tech last September, security in October, mobilities in November, and the last one, which was organized on last Tuesday, was about housing. And I think it's also for us a very important tool to make sure that startups and public actors can exchange and they can create new solutions. Well, thank you very much. So now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you very much, Romain, for that presentation. We have now one question from Yiri Marek. I will unmute you, Yiri. So as it, you can ask it directly to Romain. Yiri, are you here? Okay, maybe he has some trouble. So I will read you his question.
Yes.
So he's from the Brno region in Czech Republic. And his questions was, please, what does it mean, creator, for your case in slide 10? I have some microphone trouble.
So with creators, I was thinking of all entrepreneurs creating their startups during the three first years of the creation. So it goes from the very early stage creator, which just has an idea of what he wants to create, to the young entrepreneur, which has created his startup over the last 3 years.
He asked again, and it is only business oriented?
Yes, only business oriented.
Or no?
Only business oriented.
No NGO.
Okay. No. We also supporting associations, but no associations. Yes, of course, but not NGOs.
Okay. He told me thank you, and he understands. Sorry, because he asking the question in the question panel. So now we have another question from Mr. Juan Esteban Marcos. Juan, I will unmute you. No. Juan, can you hear us? Okay, I think he has some technical trouble too.
Yeah, at least they can hear us.
The question is, are you supporting the creation of incubators accompanying migrant entrepreneurs projects?
That's a good question. That's not, well, I think in the past, we have supported incubators that are accompanying migrants creating projects, but now that's not our priority. As I told you, now we're because we have many incubators, as I told you, in Paris region. So the first priority for us is to focus on early stage incubators that are willing to develop on an international scale and to attract international startups. So yeah, basically they can select startups created by migrants, but Well, I'm not sure that today in the 15 incubators that I mentioned that were supported over the last 2 years, one of them is supporting projects created by migrants. I'm not sure. But that's a good question. I'll try to get more information on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I have myself one question. Do you know which sector is the most represented within the startup ecosystem in Île-de-France region?
I would say artificial intelligence now is a very big topic. I know it's not really a sector, but I think as I told you, deep tech and AI is a very important strategic sector for us. But I think Eric Vaysset after me can tell you a bit more because he has many information on that too.
Okay, thank you very much, Romain, for that presentation and for the answers to your question. Now I will pass the floor to Mr. Eric Vaysset, which is the CEO of WILCO, a startup accelerator supported by Paris Regions. So, Eric, can you hear us? Wait. So we are trying to reach Eric. Please wait just a few seconds.
Mr. Eric is experiencing some technical issues. We cannot hear you. Eric, you are self-muted. You need to unmute your microphone.
Et là, vous m'entendez là?
C'est bon. Alors,
Sorry, I made a mistake. Hello, everybody. So can you see my presentation or not? Do you hear me or not? Hello?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Can you see also the presentation, WILCO Paris Region?
No, we cannot because this is a screen of Romain. So please click on the little icon with a screen.
The icon with the screen. Affichage en mode plein écran, c'est ça?
Ah non, sur le côté en dessous du petit micro vert maintenant, il y a la webcam.
Ah, ok.
Et tout en dessous, il y a un petit écran d'ordinateur. 2 petits écrans.
Ça, on n'a pas fait ça hier.
Alors.
Ah, attendez, parce que moi, il me demande si je veux activer la webcam. Ça n'a rien à voir. De toute façon, on s'en fout de la webcam. Montrer mon écran. OK.
Voilà. Parfait.
OK. So you can see the screen?
Now we can see the screen.
OK. So hello everybody. So I start immediately. WILCO, I'm Eric Vaysset. I'm the CEO of WILCO Accelerator. So WILCO is the Paris Region Tech Startup Accelerator, what means that we support startups only located on the territory of the Paris region. We support what we call technology-based startups, onboarding technological assets. And our mission is quite simple, at least to say, is that we are dedicated to help startups achieve their first €1 million in annual revenue within 3 years. So WILCO is organized in 5 industry-specific accelerators: WILCO Healthcare, Retail, Industry, Digital, and B2C. These accelerators are business-oriented, market-oriented, customer-oriented, but they are not technological-oriented. Each accelerator is driven by 2 WILCO team people, publishes a call for candidates twice a year, an average of 60 to 80 startups apply to each call, and among them we select maximum 15 startups to onboard our acceleration program, and selection is made. First selection is made from the application form of the startups, and second round of selection is made by a pitch session in front of a jury of experienced entrepreneurs. So that means that on an annual basis, we onboard 150 new startups per year in our acceleration program. All startups selected, obviously, are located on the territory of the Paris region in one of the 8 departments of the Paris region. About 60% or 65% of the startups are or were incubated, as told Romain before. They were or they are incubated in one of the 40, 45 incubators we are in relation with. We support startups onboarding all types of technologies, IT, digital technologies, what we call engineering, science, technology, and also life science, health, and biotechnology. In terms of maturity, maybe what is most important in terms of selection criteria, we select startups with maturity stage ranging from minimum technical and or commercial proof of concept up to startups already generating up to €100 in annual revenue. So what about the program? Our acceleration program is a 3-year, 3 phases acceleration program. The first phase is what we call start session. Means all startups are selected. We help startups to challenge and strengthen their development plan through 4 days of collective workshop plus 6 days of individual meeting. This phase, depending on the maturity stage of each startup, lasts from 1 to 6 months to go to the second step, the launch session. And so once ready, each startup presents its development plan in front of a jury of experienced entrepreneurs who will decide to grant or not an entrepreneur loan to the startups. So the main features of the entrepreneur loan are it's up to €150 loan. The loan is interest-free with no personal guarantee, with a repayment over 5 years, including a 1-year grace period. The last phase, the third phase of the acceleration program is what we call obsession. And this phase lasts 2 to 3 years after the launch session. And this phase is dedicated to accelerate and strengthen startup growth through, first of all, what we call 4 thematic tracks. And the thematic tracks are dedicated to give CEO or C-level managers 4 skills and tools on 4 main topics: sales and marketing, funding, people operations, PR and media, through also collective workshop plus individual training. And maybe what is the most important, we also organize business development events, allowing startups to meet potential customers, mid-sized company and also large corporation. And these business development events, they are coupled with what we call business development coaching, which are delivered by experienced business developer in order to help startup to convert this business lead into orders. In terms of results, before results meaning side of the startups, what are the results for the startups? Before we started this acceleration program in 2012, only 10% of the startups were reaching their first €1 million in annual revenue within 3 years. At the end of last year, in 2017, startup vintage 2004, there were 20% of the startups who reached at least €1 million in annual revenue at the end of year 3. And if you see the figures, you can see that these startups who reach at least €1 million in annual revenue, they hired 3 times more people, they realized 10 times more turnover, and they raised 3 times more funding than the other one. Now, to build such an accelerator, we had also to build a strong ecosystem for and around startups. At first, a team, WILCO team now is a 20-people team. We are 100% focused on our acceleration program. We have also a strong network of what we call mentor entrepreneurs. They are experienced entrepreneurs, volunteer entrepreneurs. They are members of the jury, one side, and on the other hand, they also give CEO mentoring. Business developers, as I said before, and this network, we have about now 100 business developers who help startups to develop sales and to get orders from customers, from potential customers at least. Obviously, we need funding, and we have also business angel and venture capital network. And for instance, in 2017, there were about 80 business angel and or venture capital who invest in WILCO startups for a total amount of more than 160 million euros. And finally, we have in this ecosystem, we have also what we call corporate partners, 2 types of corporate partners. What we call corporate partner support, partners who help and run all the workshops of both start session and up sessions, and what we call corporate partner business. And those ones are involved and they are willing to develop technical and or business relation with our startups. Last point, what about our business model? So WILCO is a public-private business model. Since we don't take any equity into startups, we just ask startups one-time €2,000 registration fee when they are selected to join the acceleration program. And to cover our expenses are covered 50-50 by the Paris Region Council and by the corporate partners I mentioned before. And in terms of public support, the Paris Region Council has been supporting us since the very, very beginning and is our main partner in terms of public support today. Hello?
Thank you very much,
Welcome.
Eric, for your presentation. I will ask to the audience if someone has questions. Please raise your hand or write it on the chat box at the right side of your screen.
Sorry? You
Sorry?
want to shut down the screen?
No, I was talking.
Okay.
May I have a question for you? Oh, wait.
Yes.
First, Jury from Czech Republic as a question, which is what was the most interesting startup created in your program or supported?
At least the most well-known is maybe one that you know, which is BlaBlaCar.
Oh, BlaBlaCar was supported by your...
Yes, it was supported by WILCO, but it was in 2008, I guess. At that time, we didn't have the same acceleration program, but we supported BlaBlaCar at the very beginning.
Oh, really nice. Okay, he said thank you. BlaBlaCar is the first car pooling platform.
Carpooling, car sharing. No, not car sharing, it's covoiturage.
Sorry?
I said in French covoiturage because I don't remember the word in English. Covoiturage, it's carpooling.
Carpooling.
Okay.
And me, I have one question. When you were talking about the selection phases of the startup, what are the criteria that made the startup choose by WILCO? There is some specific criteria?
No, we try to guess because it's not so obvious at this stage of development, since a very early startup doesn't make any turnover. She doesn't have any customers. So I should say there are more questions than answers. But we try to see if they are ambitious first, if the team is complete, or at least if they gather the competencies required to develop the company. And then there is the market, the technology. I should say it's classical analysis, because you need to see the market, you need to see the value proposition, you need to see the potential customer, and also the financial resources that you need to develop the company. So there is no one criteria. We have about 6 criteria to analyze if the company seems to be able to develop. First of all, again, as the team, the ambition to be a company and to develop the company as far as possible. And then there are, I should say, classical criteria, but it's not so obvious at this very early stage, because they are still incubated generally. So it means that they are just a prototype. And so we have to try to project with the company to forecast if from this technology, from this device, from this prototype, it's possible to gather the resources needed to transform the prototype into a company.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It was really clearful. I will see if we have other questions from the attendance. Yes, we have a question from Mr. Stefano Bonfa. So, Stefano, I will unmute you. Stefano?
Yes. You hear
Can
me?
you? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My question is general, and how you related all these startups ecosystem with a strategy. In other words, if we don't have a strategy as region, how do they fit, and how you justify the sustainability? That's the question.
I'm not sure to understand your question. You are speaking about startup strategy or our strategy? Do you hear me or not? Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, you hear?
Sorry, I didn't understand your question. Are you
I mean,
asking
what is sustainability
strategy or WILCO strategy?
here?
I don't hear you, sorry.
The question is the sustainability of the startups if it's missing a strategical support from the region.
The support from, you mean from the Paris Region Council?
Yes.
I don't see.
His question is about the overall support.
The question is about our support. I don't hear. I heard one word. Two words.
The overall support that the region itself, Paris, gives to the startups community in Paris.
Can you repeat again, please? I'm sorry.
Mr. Stefano, if I understand correctly, is asking what is the support that Paris region gives to the startups. So overall, what are the
Paris region? I'm not sure I understand the question, but Paris Region Council doesn't give, at least the startup we accelerate. We manage our acceleration program. Paris Region Council supports WILCO. They participate to our operational expenses. They give us money because if you want to lend money to startups, we need some money. So the money is coming from Paris Region, but they don't operate directly to our startups. We are the operator. We support startups, but Paris Region Council doesn't act directly to our startups. They help us to help startups.
Okay, thank you. It was really clear, Eric. So for the moment, I think we have no longer questions anymore. So I think we can end the webinar except if you have something to add, Eric or Romain.
So no, I don't have something to add, except maybe that when you want, because I'm in touch with other French regions who try to develop such an accelerator, and the question of a startup accelerator is first of all a question of business model. I insist on that, but if you want really to support startup during 3 years, during really operational support, you need a team, and the team costs money. My operational expenses are about 2 million euro per year, and so if you don't have the money to cover these expenses, it's not possible to make, at least we're using that, to make deep work with startups and to help them on several topics, because startups is not even technological startups. We cannot reduce that to technological issues. The question for a startup is to find a market, to find customers, to have enough finance, to build a team, to manage a team, etc. So it means that you have to consider lots and lots of topics, and we want to help startups on all these topics, not only on technological aspect, but on all topics concerning and who are related to the development or the potential development of the company. And so what I want to show you during my presentation is that since we built this acceleration program, before the acceleration program, 10% only of the startups were reaching the first €1 million. Now we are at 20%, and next year we have to be at 30% of the startup accelerating, reaching €1 million in annual revenue at the end of year 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. I don't know if someone have other questions, or if someone wants to share feedback of their own initiative in their own regions, you can still raise your hand and we will give you the floor. Otherwise, you can still send us a mail if you have questions for attendees or for speakers. Otherwise, that webinar was recorded, so you can find it online in a few days. And I want to thank you a lot, Romain and Eric, to take time to present us that really interesting and useful initiatives. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.